Well, you put in the book too, like if the streets don't want you, don't go.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, different people see in different ways.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the lessons that, you know, I think people can take from the book and understand. And that's why I think it's so powerful is how you know, start off with talking about your life, and then you can, if people really read the whole book and understand what you're talking about, the lessons you learned in your life apply to the music industry, but they apply still to life in general.
Yeah.
On so many different levels. So now, and you also had the great story about the executive from Virgin canceling his meeting with the Rolling Stones to come meet with you in Houston. And that really, it didn't surprise me. I was surprised to learn the story, but it didn't surprise me because he's looking at it, I think, from everything I know about you, the way you would. It was like a business opportunity. They got the Rolling Stones. Whether he goes to see them or not is irrelevant, but he didn't have Rap-A-Lot.
Right, right.
So, and obviously through New Tribe and a lot of the different things, you know, as discussed in the book, Rap-A-Lot was bigger than ever with Scarface's success, Ghetto Boys' success. So learning from the Virgin machine and being part of that after, you know, the Deaf American thing didn't work out, leaving Priority, having the Warner Brothers deals fall through. What did Virgin do that you had been waiting for as a businessman your whole career that enabled it to be so successful?
They broke bread. but
That's
even,
a good one.
Yeah, even more important than that, you know, Ken Berry, you know, which was Bronson. He and Bronson started Virgin together. Right. The game that he gave me, the wisdom that he gave me of the reason for closing that deal, like enhanced, you know, my ability to do the same on several deals after that. So, you know, just, you know, like one would hear that story and overlook that part of it. You know what I mean? Because I asked him, I wanted to know, man, what, and he explained to me the feeling. He said, you only get this feeling, you know, just every so often about deals. And when you get that feeling, you close immediately. And, you know, after him enlightening me and sharing that with me, I started like tapping into that feeling about certain deals. And, you know, when I got that feeling, I started executing. And every time I executed and was successful, I thought about, you know, wow, man, this man, and I'd made so much more money by executing of everything that he said to me that appeared to not be much. You know, just like I sit here and, you know, with the interview with you, you know, I've interviewed with many of people and nobody like really understood a lot of the things that I wrote like you understand it. You know what I mean? Just, you know, I'm articulating that as you are interviewing me. I'm like, wow, this brother really picked up on some things he read about it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people interview me, but the depth of the questions that you asking me, I understand what that means. You know what I mean? I understand that you're a little deeper than the average. I just wanted to say that.
Well, I appreciate that, Jay Prince. Thank you for that. But as you can tell, I'm a huge fan of, obviously, hip-hop culture and the music, but what you've done and accomplished too, and I think that's why it's important that people read this book, because, you know, I got into all this because I love the music. And then as my status in the game changed as a writer and interviewer and everything, I've connected with people. Obviously, I'm not from the hood, I'm not black, I'm not all these things, but what I did was what can I learn from this? How can it make me better? And I noticed in your book, you obviously came up in, you know, bad circumstances, but it seemed like that always mattered to you. Like, this is what's going on in my life, but this is what I want. And you know, put in the book all your goal sheets. And that's something, you know, I haven't been as successful like you have with a lot of them, but that's something that I knew was important. And for you, like, where did you get that idea to have goal sheets, to have like, And on your goal sheets that are in the book, they're not music related exclusively.
Right.
You know, it's like, I want to buy Pat a car.
Yeah.
I want to buy my grandma a house.
Right.
I want to, you know, have $1 million outside of rap a lot.
Yeah.
Like, where did that come from, given, as you talk about extensively in the book, you didn't go to some prestigious school and you weren't in an environment where your family had 17 businesses.
Right.
Like, where did that come from?
Well, that came from my heart, you know. Originally, I had the desire to want to do those things because the seeds of love was planted in me, you know, to want to return those things to the very people that you know I was talking about. But you know, I also, you know, took it a step further, and you know, I read the book, Think and Grow Rich.
Right.
And from reading that book, it taught me the importance of writing things down and prioritizing the very things that I desired, and you know, figuring out a more clear path of you know, being able to accomplish and attain those very things. So you know, it added on to that already existed in me, and that was beautiful.
And then I think one of the other things that I've always admired about you too, and this was long before I was really writing, but just when I would see on, I think it was on Rap City, where and you were talking about how you were making $250,000 off of hay.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what? I didn't know. And then you talk about that also a lot in respect of how when you bought your estate and your compound, that it came with a business attached to it with the hay. So like, I think it's important to explain to people, like, yeah, you can be successful and have all these things going on, but to not close yourself off from opportunities that are sitting right there. Like,
right.
How, I know you talk about coming up and like making the bikes and the engines and all these different things, but how did you realize, or what made you realize that you needed to have more than one hustle, more than one way to like, and to look for unconventional things like hay? Right.
Well, you know, I always kind of been a person that I never liked, no matter, you know, how much money I may be able to accomplish, I never liked to practice wasting it. Right. You know, just blowing it and, you know, just foolishly. So, you know, I have to constantly like remind myself, don't become that person, don't practice that habit, because, you know, as we all know, when you practice different habits, they can make or break you. So first of all, you know, with that being understood, I looked for a situation where, you know, my ranch was concerned. I went and looked at several ranches, and, you know, I believe in counting the cost on anything before I just embrace it and jump into it. And, you know, one thing about the ranch that I purchased with the hay business and the Black Angles business, as well of just, you know, loving the beauty of the land and everything like that, it was real attracting to me to see a business that helped pay for the overhead where the ranch was concerned. Right. You know what I mean? So I kind of viewed it as, okay, this is more of a situation where everything can be on autopilot, where the ranch can pay for itself. You know what I mean? If not totally close to it. You know, it wasn't even a situation where I had to make money off the ranch. Of course, that would have been icing on the cake. Right. But, you know, anybody that, you know, that's in the ranch business understand that, you know, that's a business unless you have oil or some, you know, crazy devices like that on it, you know, it's not a money-making situation. Right, and they're very expensive for the overhead. Yeah, exactly. And you were talking about decisions and choices. One of the things, you talk about two things that I think are related, so I was trying to figure out the good way to combine them, but you talk extensively about not drinking, doing drugs, or having anything that would take away the power of your own mind. Yeah. And on a somewhat related note, you also talked about how you didn't want your children or didn't allow them to listen to rap
you didn't want rap to raise them.
Right.
So given the, you know, the music that is out there now and, you know, when we were coming up and stuff, how did you navigate not falling into that lifestyle? And I know, you know, directly and indirectly, a lot of the artists on the label clearly had problems with the substance abuse, and you talk about that in the book with Bushwick in particular. Mm-hmm. But how did you navigate that as a businessman, as a person, and still be able to, you know, produce the music and raise your children and kind of keep that those worlds separate?
Okay, well, let me deal with the first piece, the drug piece. You know, all of my life, you know, I was raised around drugs. Mm-hmm. You know, just about all of my life, people tried to, you know, give me drugs to mm-hmm. use. You know, and I had a lot of fights because I wouldn't. You know, I was called all kinds of punks and different things because I wouldn't follow the leaders on using drugs, you know, whatever they was doing. In my mind, even, you know, as an 8-year-old, I'm like, I don't want it. So I never allowed a man to impose his will on me through whatever pressure he was trying to use to make me use that. And when I got older, I understood it even more why I didn't want the drugs in my system to like blur my focus. You know what I mean? I had big things that I wanted to accomplish, and you know, as I learned about the drugs and the different things that was going on, I'm like, whoa, you know, I don't never want that, you know, to be a situation to stop me from reaching the goals that I want to reach. Right. And you know, that's what would happen where, you know, drugs and bad habits are concerned, because they got a mind of their own when they get in your body. It's a whole different spirit, you know what I mean, of its own. And if you allow that to be the captain of your ship, then, you know, it'll be just that. You know what I mean? And it'll lead you down a road that you may not want to go. So with me, like, really understanding that, me really seeing my uncles and all the different relatives and talking to them, you know what I mean, for just trying this particular drug out one time, mm-hmm. and how it took over their life for the next 30 or 40 years. You know, they became a slave to that drug for the next 30 years or better. So understanding that and observing that, I'm like, you won't get me like that. Right. You know what I mean? I got big things I need to do, and I'm not going to allow this to stop me from getting to it. Now, the other part of the question where my kids were concerned and why I didn't allow hip-hop or TV or no outside force to enter my household and become the daddy in my household. Right. Because, you know, I understood as well from being raised, you know, without a father in my house. I understood the things I got away with. I understood the things that I had access to, such as, you know, different music and rated R situations. I understood what it done to my mind, how it matured me amongst, you know, my normal age. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When you have access to any and everything, when you allow your kids to have access to any and everything, then it's going to escalate, you know, them not being a child. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's going to take away from their childhood, because once you are awakened by these certain things, then, you know, you may not want to play with a doll no more. Right. You know what I mean? You may not want to push a doom buggy. Yeah, it's gone. So, you know, I had to not allow that to, you know, be the boss of my house.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.